And in the studios now, we've just been joined by Reverend Shodanke Johnson, who is the chairman of the Independence Commission for Peace and National Cohesion. Reverend Johnson is here to talk on peace, national cohesion, and of course, the most talked about Tripartite Committee. What's happening there, among other things? Reverend, it's a pleasure having you in the studios this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank
peace, as it is normally said, is priceless. It is something that no one is able to pay for. How integral it is to talk on peace and national cohesion at this particular moment?
Well, thank you. It's so important. Peace is a valuable thing, very valuable.
Sure.
In fact, I believe that every one of us, even in a free society or a democratic society, at some point we need to sacrifice our rights on the altar of peace. There will always come a time that we need to sacrifice some of our rights on the altar of peace. And that's how important peace is. That there are times those very rights that are enshrined in the Constitution need to be sacrificed at some point, some of it, for peace, because it's a valuable commodity. And that's what has happened all around the world. So I believe, especially looking at the situation where we are in Sierra Leone, currently facing Sierra Leone, and all the rumors that are flying all over the place, I believe there's any other time that we need peace so much for our nation, this is a time. And so it's just too important. It should even be the job of every Sierra Leonean, every meaningful Sierra Leonean, no matter your religious understanding, background, your philosophical persuasion, your ideological persuasion. I believe all of us, in the interest of the nation that we are all proud of, we should be talking about peace.
Reverend, in October 2023, there was an agreement that was signed, for which the agreement is named the Agreement on National Unity, under which Resolution 3 talks specifically about what is called Tripartite Committee, even though, yes, in the document itself, there is nothing like Tripartite Committee needs. The attention of the public is centrally focused on the Tripartite Committee, which is largely, one would say, is as a result of our political leaders, because it is their interest. Will you take us through the agreement itself? I mean, the 8 resolutions that were signed on that day, and where are we in terms of achieving the resolutions itself?
So let me quickly just kind of, it's so important that we read what was the mandate of the committee itself, and then what is circulating right now that is not really was not part of the agreement.
Indeed.
I mean this is something that is, the agreement itself was was publicized for everybody to see, and I know a lot of people know about it, but yes, still it's rather unfortunate. Let me please take some few minutes to read it, because as a team, when we realize that there's all this information, because as a commission, we are very team focused. The board members, the staff, the ambassadors on the ground, regional reps. We had a meeting and we said, look, there is a misconception. And so we came up with a document to be very clear what is in that document and what is not in document. In fact, currently we're working on translating it to all local languages so that people could clearly know where we stand. And please, if you have time, I want to do that. Clarify misconceptions surrounding the National Unity Agreement. The National Unity Agreement, a pivotal component of Sierra Leone's political landscape, has faced misconceptions regarding its scopes and implications. The agreement was done in line with the Constitution of Sierra Leone, 1991, as amended. This document aims to dispel these misunderstandings by delineating the truths behind the agreement. The truth: the Electoral Reform Committee, known to some as the Tripartite Committee, was set up pursuant to the National Unity Agreement as delineated in Clause 3. The genesis of the National Unity Agreement lies in fostering dialogue and enhancing national agreement. Lies in enhancing dialogue. That means people have to talk, and enhancing national agreement. Its establishment was to scrutinize electoral systems to scrutinize electoral systems. And this is where it is very important for everybody to understand, particularly the 2023 election and previous electoral processes. So it is about the system and the processes. There are things that are in our electoral documents that definitely that's how we've run the election all the years. But yet when you look back on it, it is one of the things that is creating the problems we have today. So if we're going to get to the root of correcting anything, we have to review those documents, because those documents are legal property of the nation. They form it's part of just like a constitution, and so we can't change it except it is reviewed. So part of what is happening, especially with one of the committees, the Tripartite, everybody, that is what exactly they're doing, taking into cognizance what happened in the 2023 elections and then the previous elections. But also added to that, its primary objective is to formulate recommendations aimed at improving future electoral processes. So the aim is to formulate recommendations after listening to everybody. And one of the things I want my listeners, everybody to know, that's why you realize the committee has traveled around, talking to people, having town hall meetings, discussing with people. And even as I speak to you today, even the other political parties are going there by 9 a.m. to give their own recommendation to the process, what they are recommending, so that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated as we go into the future.
But the arguments of these political parties who are going there to give their recommendations is that they are also political parties, just as the SLPP and the APC, who are the two parties in all of what we're talking about, and they see themselves to have been left behind in the process.
You're very correct. I mean, to be honest, I think that was one of the oversights, because, you know, anytime we talk about political system in Sierra Leone, what we try always to look at the main political parties. But it is not correct, because even if a political party has only 2 followers, but they have been registered, they are part of the political system, I believe very strongly we have to include them in the dialogue. You know, in the past we have been talking to them. That is one of the things most probably will correct going down into the future. But I think the reason why we ended up just having the 2 main political parties, because these are the 2 main political parties that have the issues that are facing all these challenges.
But that's not correct.
It's not correct. You are very right.
They are not the only 2 political parties with the issues, especially from the 2023 elections in June. For these other political parties, their own issue is how, especially the likes of NGC and C4C, who had an opportunity to be in parliament,
right,
who have now been disenfranchised of that opportunity due to the PR system's threshold. And for such political parties, that is a concern for them that needs to be factored into the review process. And they have completely been excluded because we keep focusing on APC and SLPP.
You are very correct, very correct. I mean, we have to, the truth is that it's an abnormality that needs to be corrected. I think that's why.
But when do we make the correction?
So that's
is
why
it after the Tripartite Committee is done with its work?
Right now, as I
leading us to another committee to factor in the opinion of those.
As I speak to you right now, these parties are supposed to be meeting with the Tripartite Committee. As I speak to you, 9 a.m. They were supposed to be there at 9 or 9:30 a.m. because this is something that was realized. We received letter from them as a commission, and then so they are going there to also, first of all, you know, state their, you know, their disillusionment for excluding them, but secondly, to also state what they think are the issues from their own viewpoint, and those issues should be taken very seriously, and then the recommendations should be made. But you are absolutely correct. I think this has been part of the political mistakes we have done over the years that we need to correct going forward.
The Tripartite Committee was put together in, amongst every other thing, in hope that it would sort of extinguish the fire that was, you know, looming after the June 2023 elections. Would you say in that area it's been working, calming people down with all that's been going up and down, especially on social media?
I believe that everyone, For all of us that were there, we need a mandate, as I was trying to read out to you.
The mandate is one, but I'm looking at its effect on our peace. Is it helping us to keep, especially because what you have there, obviously, are representatives of the structures, the leadership of the political parties, obviously not the supporters. But I'm asking you, is the Tripartite Committee helping to keep political supporters calm of the 2023 elections?
I believe they are doing their own very best to keep people calm. But you see, the issue here is that now those who, the leaders, we maybe leave those meetings, have been involved in this thing for some time. And what we say in this room, and when they step out, they say something completely. So it is like you are saying just now in your argument, it is our own voice against their own voice. And many times, as we all know in our political culture, people tend to listen to the people who they see as their leaders, even when, because there's a truth, there's a fact, and there's a truth. The truth is that I believe very strongly that the Tripartite Committee is doing everything humanly possible, because you have the representative of the political parties in there, at least the two main political parties, and they're doing everything humanly possible to make this thing. You've had statements from some of them, so that people will know that we are impartial, we are doing everything that is humanly possible. But the issue is that if we can look at some of the misconception here, there is a misconception that has been built that we don't know where it was manufactured. It was not part of the agreement. It was not part of the document. And therefore, those misconceptions, some people who are gullible are just reading those misconceptions, not even reading the things that are really the truth. As in, that is where the issue is.
It seems more like the Peace Commission has lagged behind in terms of their duties, because the document that we're talking about, it hinges on peace and national cohesion, for which Resolution 7 in it talks on commitment from parties to ensure that issues of hate speech, misinformation and disinformation are being tackled. Where does the Commission sit in terms of ensuring that the public understands the documents? Because as I said earlier on, it is very clear that it's only Resolution 3 that is in the minds of the public, leaving behind the other resolutions that are captured in this document.
Yeah. So we have, you know, at grassroots level, we have peace monitors, peace ambassadors in every area. We are partnering also with community, people in the community, chiefs, leaders, and these guys are constantly drumming up this document, explaining it to people. We are constantly engaging teams just for them to understand the document. And then also we are in dialogue with most of the, you know, the political parties' side meetings, that some of them are very confidential. But the truth is that this information has been drawn. As I speak to you, we are trying to do more songs. I mean, we have all the songs, you know. AIV is hearing some of the information. There are songs, now we're trying to do poems, we're trying to do dramas, and go back and have more town hall meetings just explaining the situation. So we as a commission are doing everything humanly possible. That's why we have all these peace ambassadors in all these different places, just to make sure that this information gets to the ground.
Imagine a situation, imagine an information that speaks to an election in June, which in actual fact is not the case. Where does our political leaders sit in terms of ensuring that the people get the right information? Because most times when they talk, their followers, they take it as the gospel truths. If a Muslim just say Amen, and a Christian will just say Amen to the information that they are giving them. Where does our political leaders sit in terms of ensuring that the public, their followers, understand the real situation?
You see, there is a difference between the politician and, now, a leader can be a politician, but there are some people that are just politicians, but they are not leaders. And the difference between the two is that leaders will always think about the next generation. Whatever they do, they are thinking about the next generation. People who are politicians are not leaders. We only think about the next election. So this is a big dichotomy. If the man is just a politician, not a leader, all they think about is the next election, the next election. But those who are leaders and yet they are politicians, they are thinking about the next generation. What can we do to affect the next generation? You know, it is very important. So we have to understand there are a lot of leaders in politicians. We need more leaders in politicians who are politicians. And so there are a lot of them on both sides, in all the political parties, honestly, to be honest, who are doing everything humanly possible to advocate the truth, to establish the truth, to say, no, this was not part of the agreement. They are doing it. To be very honest, there's on both parties, both sides, who are saying, and other political parties and other leaders who are saying, no, this is not part of what we discussed. This is not part of the unity agreement. But at the same time, we have those who are just politicians. All they are thinking about is the next election. So that is the critical issue. And we are living in a democratic society where we can't say they cannot talk. They have right to talk. But the truth is that those who are leaders, are politicians, should begin to think about the next generation, because anything that affects the next generation is an indictment against us today, because they will question us. They will say, father, mother, where were you? Where all these things were falling apart.
We would be going for sports in a jiffy, but before that, just last week, the two main political parties, the APC and the SLPP, issued a press statement where they both came to an agreement against hate speech, something that has been welcomed by well-meaning Sierra Leoneans. But the big thing here is they make these verbal commitments, sometimes even during interviews, that they are against hate speeches and they're committed to it. But you would find from time to time either members of their political party or supporters would either be at events or on social media making statements contrary to their commitment. How can they make it work to support peace and national cohesion, just following up from the statements they issued that they are in agreement fighting against hate speech?
Yeah, I think one way they would do it is they have to keep on saying this word over and again, because as I said, our understanding, a lot of people, the understanding of democracy is very different. Now, they have made those speech, so it is their responsibility to quiet their members, to disassociate from some of the statements that any of the members will say, to go back, whether on social media, wherever, whatever platform those members are using, and say, no, these really don't represent the position of our political party. Whatever Mr. XYZ is saying, it is their own opinion, but it don't represent our political parties. I think that is what they have to keep on doing over and again. Whenever they see something like this is happening, they should do those type of things. Or else what we will see is that if they are not speaking, they are not saying anything after this statement, and they are not saying it, they are not tweeting, they are not texting, what will happen is that it becomes a feeding frenzy, and everybody just wants to make sure that they hold on to, because today everybody wants the likes, everybody wants the following. So if they're having more likes, more followings, even when the information is negative, then they will just keep on doing it. But somebody within the political hierarchy, each of the political parties, should say continuously, this really don't represent the opinion of our parties. Just as we do disclaimers in many, many places. I think that should be one of the things that I believe political parties should do. And I want to be very sincere with most of them. Most of the leaders are trying their level best to be very sincere to do this. There are others who are not. But most of them are trying. They are doing everything, because some of us have personal relationship with them. But they cannot manage everybody. But I think the disclaimers we have continuously. These don't represent our opinion. It doesn't represent where we stand, our position as a political party. I think if this is happening all the time, because I want to say this, the news that spread is the news that wins. The news that spread is the news that wins. So the issue here is that if we continue to spread negative news, and that's what it wins, even though there might be some facts, but it's not the truth, because there's a difference between facts and truth. So I think we have to make sure that the right news, the appropriate news, the good news, what is in the document spreads, so that that news wins.
There is a post, a comment here on our Facebook page by Mosdi that caught my attention. He says, there goes the problem. How can you plant maize and expect to harvest rice? By the way, I love maize. Peace is the product of justice and equality. Without these products, peace becomes a dream but not reality. It's true, historically, we had great men like Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, to name a few. They took the non-violent approach to achieving their goals, but it was only when justice finally took its course before real peace was achieved.
Yeah, I mean, we can't separate peace and justice. I mean, justice is very important. But when you look at our situation in Sierra Leone, for me, I mean, even when we talk about justice, there should also be a whole review of the system. It has to be a review. It's not something that can change overnight. It's true to what he has said. We can't really have, total peace without without justice. So I know that the cry is that let's have justice in the situation, and then peace can come out of justice. But I believe very strongly, if we're going to also look at that area of the law, then there should be a total review. Because our justice system, whatever we have today, is just something that started yesterday. It's something that has been there around for a very long time. So just as we are looking at our political system, all of us should look and say, what are the issues that need to be reviewed in our justice system? And so that, together, collectively, it is also being reviewed. Those who are part of that system, who understand it, the legal people, now can explain those issues. Some of us who are outside of that will not understand. And justice is not just what, because it works for me today, I call it justice. But we have to go back, just like our electoral system. Let's look at it. What do we need to rehaul to help us as Sierra Leoneans have peace? If justice is one part of it, then if it's necessary, can we review it? There are other issues, other people will say, that is also part that brings peace. What are those issues? But let's look at it, let's dialogue, let's discuss until we get to where we want. So I 100% go with what they're saying. There will be no peace without justice. That's true.
At this moment, what will you want to leave with the public in terms of what's happening, the tripartite and many other issues that has to do with peace and national cohesion as we're about to wrap up the program?
Yeah, I think what I want the public to know, all of us to know, is that we have a responsibility collectively. Yes, there are a lot of things that have gone wrong in the past, yesterday, today, and that has always gone wrong. So we should committedly, Sierra Leoneans home and abroad, say, okay, let's be very honest and look at these things that have gone wrong. And let us try so that we'll correct it, looking at it at least from every facet of society, so that we'll have the Sierra Leone that we need. It can't happen overnight, no matter what we do. It can't happen overnight. But I want to say this one. It is the sacrifices of yesterday that has brought the success that we have. So it is the success of today is a sum total of the sacrifices of yesterday. Whatever success we have today, people made sacrifice for it. So if we want to see success tomorrow, we should also make our own sacrifices today. I think that is what is important. And let's speak peace, let's preach peace, and let's speak it in line with justice.
Thank you so very much, Reverend Shodanke Johnson, for your time this morning. He's the chairman for the Peace Commission, for short. And he was talking on the tripartite itself and peace and national cohesion in Sierra Leone.